So let's get started. Maria, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Louise. And thank you all for joining me today, and for any of you who do actually watch this recording. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about clearing, grounding, and protection. Because to me, I believe being able to learn to clear your space, ground yourself, and protect yourself should be life skills. Not just therapists should learn, but I believe everybody. And if I had my choice, I would teach everybody on the planet how to clear, ground, and protect. But coming back to you as therapists, why it's so important is because every single thing that you can possibly think about, and even those things that you can't think about, is energy. And energy affects us every single second of the day, even when you're sleeping. Now, if energy was only positive, you wouldn't need to learn how to clear, ground, and protect. But energy is positive and negative. And because energy can affect on a positive level, that's great, but it can also affect on a negative level. So to give you an example of how energy can affect you, so say, for instance, you've got a client, and I'm going to use reflexology just as a go-to at the moment. So say you've got a client who comes to see you, and that client might have had a very traumatic day. Lots of things might have gone wrong in that person's day, and they've actually carrying this trauma and maybe anxiety within them, and they come to see you. So on one level, by doing reflexology for them, you're helping them relax, helping their body calm. But all that energy, that trauma, anxiety, or whatever that client is actually feeling, is actually being left as a residue in the room where you're working. Now, if you don't clear the room and your space, that energy will just continue to linger. And what happens is, if you continue seeing more clients, the energy begins to build in the room. And what happens then is you could end up actually beginning to feel quite drained yourself, or out of sorts, or you might even find your moods, feelings, or emotions get affected. Because one of the key things to understand about clearing, grounding, and protection is you're able to remain and retain a positive balance daily, no matter what you're doing. Someone said to me once, how many clients can you see in a day? And I said, well, normally about six, and six with no breaks. And I mean just literally going from client to client to client, because after each client, I literally clear my space and clear my workspace. So it's always putting it back into a point of a positive balance. So if I asked you the question, and I'm sure you'd all, even though I can't see you today, I'm sure you'd all nod your heads and go, yes, we do. So if you, for instance, do a massage or reflexology or beauty treatment, whatever you actually do, and if I said you, do you change the towels that you use with each client? I'm sure you'd all go, well, yes, of course, that's common sense. Well, to me, it's common sense to clear the energy in the room, because it's the same thing. Because energy, even though you might not visibly be able to see it, it's still there. So to give you an example of being able to clear the energy in the room, so there's lots and lots of different techniques for clearing, lots of different techniques for grounding, and lots of different techniques for protecting. But one way of clearing the energy in the room is if you actually imagined a shower. So it's almost like a shower is in the ceiling of the room. And you imagine that you're flicking it on after the client has been, but imagine what is coming down is the highest white light. But bearing in mind, if you don't ask for the highest white light, you wouldn't necessarily get it. You'd get any old white light. But by asking the highest white light, you can just imagine then that shower coming down, clearing the room. So it's a bit like all this water is coming down, it's highest white light coming down, clearing the room, clearing everything in it. And at the center of the room is a drain, and just all of this is just cleansing, clearing the room, putting it back into a point of balance. And bearing in mind, if you're standing in the room while you're doing this, you yourself are clearing your own space, because this highest white light is also clearing you. Okay, because bearing in mind, no matter what you do on a therapy level, and clearing ground and protection, to me, a child can learn to do, a housewife, someone in corporate, it doesn't really matter what your career or what your area in life is. But as therapists, I do believe it's really important, because it stops you taking on other people's feelings, thoughts, and emotions. So to give you a little bit of a diagram of how this works, so say you got up in the morning and you have got children in the house and they're running around and you're getting a little bit stressed trying to get them out to school because you know you've got to go to work, right? And you've also realized that you've got things that you need to do, and you can start getting that little bit of feeling of overwhelmed and a little bit stressed, and you can get a little bit worried. And then what happens is you drop the kids off and you get into work and you sort of put yourself a little bit into a balance, but you've still got this little bit of worrying thought going on around in your head. And so then the client comes in to see you, and they've also had lots of things they've been worried about. What happens is worry and worry feeds. So even though you're not necessarily aware to the degree of what your client is worrying about, but literally by you having that little bit of a thought about worrying, that energy from your client is feeding your worry. When that client goes, so you get another client who's got a little bit of worry in it, it's feeding within you. And then, for instance, say a client rings and cancels, that worrying thought in you can start to actually turn in on you, that you begin to think, is it me? Is it my business? What am I doing wrong? Why is the client cancelled? And it can actually create sometimes a downward spiral, rather than actually you turning it back on itself and going, a client's cancelled, I could use this time positively. So any negative thought, actually, the more you think about it, the more you feed it. And you don't necessarily have to know other people for that to feed. So for instance, carrying on this little story of worry, say you pop out to the local bakery to get a sandwich for lunch, for instance, all right, and you're standing in the bakery queue, and say there's a few people there, and you might not know them at all, but if any of those people are also worrying, that energy will continue to feed in you. It'll continue, your worry will also feed in them, but at the moment we're thinking about you as a person. And what can happen is, by the time you've actually come home from work that day, that's if you work in a different place rather than your home, the whole worrying aspect will have just continued to have grown within you. And initially, over the first few days, first few weeks, you might actually just take it as part and parcel of you as a person, until you could end up a few months down the line feeling very drained, and the worry could have turned into anxiety. That's literally how energy can feed. Bearing in mind, not everything's negative, and I'll show you on a plus point how positive energy can grow, because it's called emotional contagion. So if you've ever looked on YouTube or social media and seen ABBA Voyage videos, shall we say, where everybody's singing along to the music and dancing, and you can see big smiles on everybody's face, even those people I think who have just been dragged along to watch ABBA regardless, because it's so much positive energy there. It's feeding everybody with that positive feeling of they want to dance and sing along to the music. But because we live in a world at the moment where there is a lot of negativity on the news, social media, and lots of different things, it can affect. But by clearing your space daily, it puts you back into a point of balance, and it allows you to retain that balance. So another technique with the shower is if you physically shower, when you go in the shower, either in the morning or the evening, for a moment or two while you're standing in that shower, imagine it's the highest white light physically. So you are standing in the physical shower and you just imagine it's the highest white light, and any negativity can then just flow off you going down the drain. Okay, so it's simple techniques like that because energy always follows thought. So sometimes if you rent a room somewhere, and I always remember this, I went to cover for someone and I walked into this room and someone had been doing therapies before me, and whoa, did the energy literally assault me because they hadn't cleared the space and you could feel the residue of all the other people who'd been in there and the actual therapist. So if you actually rent a space and go and work, it's a bit like the first thing you should do is clear that space and almost like embrace it and making it your own while you're in there. And when you leave that space, clear it again because you don't want to leave anything behind in one respect of your own energy. Also, another thing with working with energy on a positive note, and I've seen this often on social media where people are going, oh, I don't know what color uniform to wear. Oh, I don't know what colors to use for my logo. What does everybody else think? Now, as soon as you start asking what everybody else thinks, you're straight away giving away your power. So you're straight away disempowering yourself, because one rule to remember is what makes you happy, what makes you excited. Like I love bright blue and I love bright yellow. My son sometimes goes, oh my goodness, when I pick up like yellow boots or a yellow hat, but he does laugh, thank goodness. But what I'm saying is I love those colors. They make me happy and excited. You might love brown, but if it makes you happy and excited, or pale green or pink or purple or black, it doesn't matter. Because if it makes you happy when you wear that color uniform, or where you choose to have your website or your logo, those colors, that is what will radiate off in a positive note. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to promoting your business, it's like you've got to do it from a place of what resonates from a happy place from within you. So that's a little bit about clearing. So when we talk about grounding, okay, and funny enough, I wrote a blog on this today, all right? So for any of you who want to read a little bit more about how grounding affects, but just to give you the overcap of grounding, I've got ADHD, which is very well managed for those of you who don't know, but I am one of those people, my mind races and I can sort of think of about 30 things to do at once. And I just think it's normal. And a lot of people go, it's not quite that normal to be wanting to do all these things. But if I'm grounded, it means I am actually in the present moment, clear mind, calm, and I have clarity. So grounding helps stop the overwhelm feeling. It gives you that point of calmness. It gives you that clarity. But it doesn't also what it also does is it encourages confidence. So if you ever feel you're lacking a bit of confidence in yourself, or you feel like you can't make a decision, or you feel like you're a bit all over there, grounding really, really helps you be in the present moment. And there's loads of things written out there about grounding, but to be a little bit more scientific, because I think most things which are classed as spiritual, I do believe a lot of things spiritual are actually more scientific than the scientists actually understand, okay? So we've all got our physical body that we can all see. And for all of you therapists, you've studied anatomy and physiology, so you understand about all these different bodies in us. And then you've got the fascia body and all of this. But you've also got the auric body, which is the color energy field, and you've also got your astral body. There's other bodies, but I won't go into all of those now. But the astral body is what needs to be in alignment with your physical body to be grounded. And one way of doing it, because there's again loads of ways to ground, is to imagine you've got a pair of lead weight boots on your feet. So it's almost like those lead weight boots are actually earthing you and bringing you back down to earth. Because how many of you, and since I can't see you, I don't know the answers to all of this, but how many of you ever wake up in the morning, you might have had your 6-8 hours sleep, don't know how long, and actually wake up in the morning and still feel really tired? Because that actually means you're not very grounded when you get up. But if you physically stretched in the morning before you get out of bed, that helps ground you. But again, grounding should be done daily. And if you ever feel that you're out of sorts and can't make a decision, go and ground yourself. It's also a brilliant thing if you've got any of you've got children or grandchildren and they're a bit, got lots of loose energy, shall we say. It's a bit winter at the moment, but in the summer, you can get them to take their shoes and socks off and come and stomp around on the grass, okay? Because that's a really good technique to ground children, bring them back into the moment, calm the energy, shall we say, but also it's a good thing to do for yourself. So grounding is essential to do every day because that also gives you the strength. It gives you more purpose to be at one with yourself, and it helps you to have that self-belief in yourself. And the other thing to do is about protection. So if I said to you, for example, unless you're into Wim Hof breathing, by the way, so you can avoid this question if you're into that. But if I said to you, it was snowing outside, it's -10 degrees, are you really likely to go outside in a bikini? I don't think so. All right, like I said to you, unless you're Wim Hof. Okay, and I commend you for that one, if you can. So what I would say with it is, you would normally put a coat on and wrap up tight, might have scarf, gloves on, and that is exactly what protection is all about. So protection acts as your buffer, okay? So it doesn't always stop the energy coming in, but it slows the energy down and it's muted. So what happens with it is you don't take it on quite as much as you would without energetic protection up around you, okay? So some people have said to me over the years, because I've been teaching all of this the last, God's age here now, last 30 years plus. So if you protect yourself, and people have said, yeah, but if I protect myself, what's going to happen then? Am I going to be less sensitive to people? And my answer to that is no, you're actually going to be more sensitive to people and more empathetic, because you'll be able to actually clear the energy afterwards. So again, there's lots and lots of ways to protect. One way to protect, which is quite a common known way, is to imagine a ball of the highest white light, like a bubble, all around you. And that acts as the buffer zone. You can also learn to protect your own space, but you can also learn to protect your workspace and your home space if you want to as well. Because everything affects on a positive or negative level, but by actually embracing the fact of putting that element of protection up, like I said, it acts as that buffer. Some people don't realize they're doing it because black, the color wearing black, energy can slide off it to a degree. So I would say, and if you look at a lot of people and you look in most clothes shops, I tell you one thing, there's usually a far higher majority of black in these clothes shops than colors. And so people don't always necessarily realize that they're actually using color as a way of protection. Okay, so black will actually absorb negativity and positivity to a degree, and the black colour does slide off. So those are just like some of the ideas of clearing, grounding, and protection, but it's just showing you the importance of it. Because giving you another example of, like, in your personal life, you could have a friend ringing you up who's really depressed. So she's broken up from her boyfriend, crying her eyes out, and she's, you know, the world's coming to an end, shall we say. And if I said to you, how many of you, and I'm sure you'd all actually say yes at some point in your life, how many of you have ever been affected by having a phone call with someone? Then I'm sure you could all actually go yes, okay? Because you don't actually have to see someone physically to be affected by the thoughts, feelings, moods, and emotions. So if you know your friend is actually really depressed and she's going to ring you, you'd put a degree of protection up that you could still help the person, but one, it wouldn't affect you as much. But then what you would do afterwards, you come off that phone, is clear your system. Because if I said to you all, if you're feeling out of sorts, how much of it is yours and how much of it have you actually picked up from other people? Because the mass majority of people drown in other people's negativity, not their own, but they don't realize it. So I can see there's some questions coming in, Louise. I think there are there. Oh, okay.
There are, yes. So there's a couple of questions about. So Julia said, what you were saying about going outside and grounding in the mornings really resonating with her, but it's picking cold, which didn't say that, but I'm saying that it's picking cold and children won't want to do it. I just wondered if there was something that could be simulated. I've suggested maybe some natural fibres on the floor, that just that action of stamping. Is there anything else that could be done to stimulate the kind of, I don't know.
Yes. So you can use the lead weight boots, and you can actually get if you want the kids to ground as well, you can actually sit there. And if you read my blog, it's taking you through a 6-point thing, which went out today. It's taking you through a little 6-point thing, and you can literally get the kids to imagine. So you can, like, make it a game a little bit. Or if you're just doing it for yourself, you can just imagine lead weight boots on your feet. All right.
I'll put that link in the notes as well. Your
Okay.
blog. Yeah. And then we've got a question about black. Oh, actually, Julia's just said, do you mean if we're all stressed and grumpy going to school, then the whole day is out of balance? Yeah, I think it is actually, isn't it? If you start the day kind of feeling
Yeah.
grumpy.
So basically, one of the easiest ways, energy always follows thought, okay? So if you get up in the morning, okay, and you set out a positive intention, so if you actually said, getting out of bed as you're heading to the toilet or brush your teeth or to get your coffee, shall we say, I am happy, I am positive, today is a positive day, even though you might be going, yeah, it's not, shall we say, but the more you actually say it, it's actually that you'll find that the days become easier over time because you're setting out that intention. So it's like you can get the kids even to do it as well, of actually going, today's a positive day, even in the car, walking to school. Come on, kids, everybody say today's a positive day. So you're setting that intention, you're sending that energy out into your day. So Lords has asked, would you suggest to wear black when treating a client? I use white and avoid blacks. So it comes back to my thing, Lords. What makes you happy and excited? I wear white because white encompasses all colours. Black is also on the other end of the spectrum. And you'll often see me normally either in white, blue, or pale pink. And the yellow, shall we say. Don't forget the yellow. So, Lords, if you feel white, you love wearing white, and it makes you feel happy and excited, that's what you should wear. Okay, does that answer? Yeah. Okay, she's got a thumbs up. Okay. So has anybody else got any questions? Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about the clearing, grounding, protection. So I've been teaching this about over 30 years. And as a little girl, I used to always see spirit, thought it was perfectly normal, shall we say, and then realized it wasn't. Now everybody else could see things, shall we? I went into spiritualist church when I was 17, trained as a platform medium, and spent my early 20s working all around. Well, I worked in Australia for a year first, but worked all around UK doing clairvoyant readings, and ended up teaching spiritual development because I got asked to in my early 20s, co-founded the Atma College of Healing and set up the Seren College, teaching meditation, spiritual healing, and spiritual development. And then as time progressed, I had a son who's amazing, by the way. And my husband passed when my son was 2.5. So I took a little bit of time out to make sure my son, he's 15 now, was sound with what had happened with it. And during this time, my son is dyslexic. So he's dyslexic, dyscalculia and dyspraxic, and I've got ADHD. What a combination. And I trained as a dyslexic teacher to understand him, shall we say. And when we moved because of his education, I trained as a reflexologist. And even though I've always taught these courses, well, Louise actually helped me, enabled me to get me going to set up the e-learning course in clearing, grounding, and protection. So I got Louise to thank you for that. But also, for some of you know, Kelly Hainsworth pushed me to get the courses CPD recognised, because she was saying, do you know what, all therapists would benefit from learning to clear, ground and protect. And just to add, my son has been able to clear, ground and protect since he's 6. And I've got to say, and I'm not just saying this because he's my child, but like because all his teachers rave about him all the time, but he is a very happy, sociable, confident child. So clearing, grounding, protection should be a daily thing. So it's like you get up in the morning, you ground yourself, you put your protection up for the day. And if you're seeing clients, you would regularly clear through the day, and you would certainly clear at the end of the day. So this is just like a little bit of insight into clearing, grounding and protection for you. And if you're wanting to know more, I do teach a full-on CPD day course on it. And the idea about the CPD course is because there's lots of ways to clear, lots of ways to ground, lots of ways to protect. At the end of that, you've actually got the tools that go, do you know what, that way works better for me than that way. And it's actually very interactive. And as thanks to Louise, I've also got an e-learning course in it. So over to you, Louise, or if anybody else has got any questions.
I think what you said, I mean, everything that you said there is it's so important. And I think when we take the time to actually do it, we realize, oh my God, this is just like magic. Why don't we do that all the time? And it does take a while, as you say, to get into the habit of doing it. But your thoughts are so powerful, aren't they? And what you think will create the emotion that goes with it, and emotion create the words that go with it. And we can say something hurtful or we can say something lovely. You know, it takes the same amount of effort, doesn't it? And it starts with what goes up there. I actually agree with you. I think this learning should be part of the national curriculum for complementary therapy. I think it is so important, and it is a massive, I think, gap in the curriculum, which hopefully we'll be able to address very soon, because the qualifications are coming up for renewal. But until then, it'll be, you know, I think it's something that everybody should investigate if they haven't already. So thank you so much for bringing that to light. And we'll put all the links to how people can get in contact with you, read your wonderful blogs, and take all your CPD courses, either in person or online.
There we are. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining me today. And I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Any questions can go in the comments of the post, because Maria is in the group, so you'll be able to she'll be able to respond to you directly if there's anything that you need to know. So I think, unless anybody wants to come back on, I'm going to stop recording now.